The Batman Arkham series is mainly composed of Arkham Origins, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight, but the real story of Arkham begins in Batman Arkham Asylum and ends in Batman Arkham City. Right now, I'm going to be explaining the Arkham story that is in Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. In case you already know everything about Asylum City, you can skip to the time that is on screen right now. But I recommend you watch the whole thing if you are not familiar with every secret of Asylum City, and also it's gonna be better for you to understand my point later. But again, the time is on screen, you can jump there if you already know everything. Arkham Asylum was the first game in the franchise, and we all know that the main story worked around Joker trying to control the Arkham Asylum and poison the Gotham rivers using the Titan formula. However, while we are trying to stop the Joker as Batman, we end up discovering that there's a lot more going on there. While exploring the island and the asylum, we can find some carved messages that hide some secrets about what's going on in the island. After unveiling all the secret messages and putting them all together, we can see that the Warden of Arkham Asylum, Quincy Sharp, believes that he is the Spirit of Arkham, the man who actually founded the Arkham Asylum. Amadeus Arkham was a psychiatrist, and he founded the asylum because he wanted to cure the mentally ill to send them back into society. However, one of the patients that he was treating was responsible for killing his wife and child. In one of his treating sessions, he applied such a powerful electric shockwave in the patient that it was enough to kill him. Quincy Sharp has a very similar story to Amadeus Arkham because he also wants to cleanse the city of the mentally ill. And he also had his wife and child killed by one of the sick people. Quincy Sharp tried to cure the guy who killed his wife and child in the Arkham Asylum. After believing he was cured, Quincy Sharp was gonna release him back into society. But minutes before he was released, the guy killed Quincy Sharp's secretary, proving that no, he wasn't cured. That caused Quincy Sharp to believe that you cannot cure the mentally ill, and the only way for you to actually cleanse the city out of these people is by killing them. He got inspired by Amadeus Arkham's story and started killing his patients and calling it accidents. His ultimate goal is to get rid of all these mentally ill by killing them, but especially the Joker because he's the worst of all. He believes the society will be forever thankful to him for getting rid of the bad people. Not only do we discover all of that when we unveil the secret messages, but if we go into his office, we can find a secret room where we can find his plans to expand his goal to a much wider scale. Quincy Sharp is trying to become the mayor of Gotham, and in that secret room, we can find the map of Gotham City with the symbol of Arkham and the word approved. Basically, his plan is, if he becomes the mayor of Gotham City, he's gonna turn a whole part of the city into a prison, which is gonna be called the Arkham City. The Arkham City would basically be the same as the Arkham Asylum, but a much wider scale. 18 months after the events of Arkham Asylum, and we get to Batman Arkham City, where we can see that yes, Quincy Sharp became the mayor of Gotham, and yes, he created the Arkham City. Every criminal of Gotham is transferred into the Arkham City, and that facility is controlled by Hugo Strange. We get sent into that facility as Bruce Wayne, and we don't know much of what's going on there, but we know that Hugo Strange is controlling and that there is a Protocol 10 that is gonna happen in a few hours. We spend the entire game trying to figure out what is the Protocol 10, but while we are trying to do that, we got other problems like the Joker. He's dying because he got poisoned by the Titan formula that he injected himself in the first game, and he injected his own blood in Batman and spread throughout the Gotham City hospitals. So Batman has to find a cure for Joker's blood at the same time that he has to figure out what Protocol 10 is. After failing to discover what Protocol 10 is in time, Hugo Strange activates it, and we find out that the goal of Protocol 10 was basically to kill and eliminate every inmate inside the Arkham City. As I said before, this was basically Quincy Sharp's goal on a much wider scale, because now, instead of killing a few patients inside the asylum and calling it accidents, in Arkham City, they had the Protocol 10, which was basically helicopters shooting people all over Arkham City. He created a barrier to separate the good people of Gotham from the criminals, and he could simply slaughter the criminals inside of Arkham City, which would be perfect to cleanse the city of the criminals, the bad, and the mentally ill. As Batman, we go after Mayor Quincy Sharp inside the Arkham City to figure out what's going on. After interrogating Quincy Sharp, we figure out that Hugo Strange was the man behind Arkham City, and he had powerful friends that would give every resource that Quincy Sharp needed to become mayor. All he needed to do was open Arkham City and put Hugo Strange in control of it. He would become the mayor of Gotham City and at the same time be praised as the one responsible for cleaning Gotham of criminals. We also discover in some audio tapes that Hugo Strange utilized Mad Hatter's mind control drug to persuade Quincy Sharp into doing all of that. After discovering that Hugo Strange was actually the man behind everything, we go after him to stop Protocol 10. After successfully stopping Protocol 10, we start talking to Hugo Strange, but before we actually have a chance to talk, Ra's al Ghul shows up and stabs Hugo Strange. They start talking to each other, and while they're talking, we discover that Hugo Strange was actually working for Ra's al Ghul this whole time. Ra's al Ghul wants someone to replace him as the leader of the League of Assassins because he's getting too old for that position. Hugo Strange wants to replace him, so he goes after Ra's with Batman's secret identity and with this plan to eradicate Gotham of criminals. Ra's al Ghul is pleased with Hugo Strange's plan because he believes that all criminals should die. And when a civilization got corrupt to a point of no return, you must burn it down to the ground so that a better one can rise from the ashes. He gives Hugo Strange a chance of implementing his plan, and if he's successful, he will let Hugo Strange become the leader of the League of Assassins. Since Batman was able to stop Protocol 10, Ra's al Ghul considers that Hugo Strange failed him, and that's why he stabbed him and is gonna let him die. In his last moments, Hugo Strange activates Protocol 11, which causes the tower to explode. Batman jumps out of the window with Ra's al Ghul, but Ra's al Ghul decides to stab himself and then he dies. The reason why I told you all of this is to show you that Arkham Asylum and Arkham City have such a well-developed and deep story that force you as Batman to face against your worst enemy, which is the idea that people that are bad, that are criminals, that are corrupt, they have no hope and that they should be exterminated. Whenever Batman puts on that cape, he wants to show for Gotham City that it still has salvation, that it still has hope. And in Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, he has to fight against the exact opposite of what he stands for. Unfortunately, at least for me, all of that ends in Arkham City. In Arkham Knight, you have Scarecrow trying to poison the entire Gotham with his new toxin to cause fear and cause chaos throughout the city. And you also have Arkham Knight trying to get revenge on Batman. But none of them have the same idea and the same ideology as Ra's al Ghul, as Quincy Sharp, as Hugo Strange. They don't want to save Gotham and to save society by killing what's rotten and what's bad about it. In the case of Scarecrow, he just wants to see everybody burn and everybody be afraid, while Arkham Knight spends the most part of the game just wanting to get revenge on Batman. Nobody in Arkham Knight has the Spirit of Arkham, which is how Quincy Sharp calls it, which is the idea that in order for you to save Gotham, in order for you to improve society, you gotta get rid of what's bad about it. This was such a wasted opportunity in my opinion because they could have kept the same story, the same Spirit of Arkham throughout all the Batman Arkham games. It could start with Quincy Sharp killing the inmates inside of Arkham Asylum, evolve to Arkham City, where Hugo Strange commanding it would kill all the inmates inside that portion of Gotham, which is called the Arkham City, and then we could have a third game, which could be called The End of Arkham, Arkham's End, or something like that, where Ra's al Ghul sees that, okay, it's not possible for me to just exterminate the criminals because I tried it already and it failed. So if I cannot exterminate just the criminals inside of Gotham, I'm gonna exterminate the entire city of Gotham. And then Batman would have to save the entire city from the wrath of Ra's al Ghul. This would be perfect in my opinion because Batman would have to fight against the exact opposite of what he stands for since the very first game until the end of the franchise. However, with each game, that ideology would be expanded upon and it would be a much bigger, wider scale, which would cause Batman to have a lot more challenges and have to fight even harder to defend what he stands for. Not to mention that Ra's al Ghul would be perfect to end the series because he's one of Batman's most dangerous enemies. He's one of the best fighters in the world, he has hundreds of years of experience, and he's got access to a lot of resources. So he would be the perfect antagonist for Batman in this series, not only because he's the personification of the Arkham spirit, of the idea that you gotta exterminate what's bad about society in order for you to get something better out of it, but also because he could match Batman's skills and resources. Before we continue, I just want to remind you to leave me a thumbs up if you're enjoying this video, and also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to receive more content like this. Now, does that mean that Arkham Knight is bad or that I don't like it? Not at all. I love the Arkham series as a whole. I really enjoyed Batman Arkham Knight, but I just believe that that was a missed opportunity because it just feels like the main story of Arkham Knight doesn't really connect to the story of Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. Worth mentioning that I'm talking about the Arkham story here. Because if you get the Joker, for example, he was perfectly continued in Arkham Knight. They picked up from where they left off in Arkham City, so everything that happens in Arkham Knight when it comes to the Joker is directly correlated to the events of Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. In Arkham Knight, Joker is inside Batman's mind. Why? Because of Scarecrow's toxin, but also because the Joker's blood is inside Batman's organism. Why is the Joker's blood inside Batman? Because in Arkham City, the Joker infused his own blood in Batman so that Batman would have an excuse to search for a cure. Why does Joker need a cure? Because in Batman Arkham Asylum, he infused the Titan formula in his body and that caused him to get sick. As you can see, everything that is happening now is a consequence of the past events of the other games. But when it comes to Scarecrow and Arkham Knight, you cannot make such a perfect link with the events of Arkham City and Arkham Asylum. Now, you might ask me, what about Arkham Origins? Well, Arkham Origins is just like Arkham Knight, where the events of that game have no correlation to the Arkham part of the story that we got in Asylum and City. I know that Arkham Origins is supposed to be before the events of Arkham Asylum, but they could have a little bit of the origins of Arkham Asylum itself. If Arkham Asylum is much older than Batman and they could not show the creation of Arkham Asylum, maybe they could do something like show Quincy Sharp being promoted to the warden of Arkham Asylum. Or maybe just show Quincy Sharp trying to cure the patients and then maybe a cutscene where he loses control and kills one of them as a post-credit scene. Or maybe Batman delivering the Joker inside the asylum and then Quincy Sharp going to talk to Joker already with that mind of killing patients. It would already be something to show us the beginning of Quincy Sharp in the asylum and the whole Spirit of Arkham. The difference though is that Arkham Origins was being done by a different company, plus it was supposed to be before the events of Arkham Asylum. Since it's before the events of Asylum, it's a little harder to make the connection of that Spirit of Arkham. Plus, since it wasn't their story, it's kinda hard to get that same feeling. Arkham Knight has no excuses though because it was being done by the same company that did Asylum and City, and it was supposed to end the franchise. They could have made a better plan to make Arkham Knight fit perfectly with the events of Asylum and City. I hope you understand what I meant when I say that Arkham Knight doesn't seem to have the same story as Arkham Asylum City. I tried to explain it as best as I could. And now I want you to tell me in the comments section what you think about it. Do you agree with me that Arkham Knight doesn't seem to have a story that follows the events of Arkham Asylum City? Or do you think that Arkham Knight's story is the perfect way to end the franchise? If you want to get the Arkham series for yourself, make sure to access the description where I'm gonna have links for you to get each of the Arkham games. Leave your ideas in the comments, be respectful to others, and let's be greater together.